from a place that's actually yours. Buckle up, because what you're about to hear will make you question everything you thought you knew about power, pride, and the sweet taste of justice. The Hamptons. Oceanfront mansion. Champagne flowing like water. The elite of American society gathering for what's supposed to be the wedding of the year. And then, she appears. A woman in a simple navy dress, walking through the gates like she owns the place. Which, as it turns out, she actually does. But nobody knows that yet. Angela Washington moves across the estate with quiet confidence. Her heels click softly on the marble pathway. She's not rushing. She's not nervous. She's just there. Observing. Remembering. Every stone, every tree, every corner of this magnificent property tells her a story. Her story. Her family's story. Now, you need to understand something about places like this. The Hamptons aren't just about money. They're about lineage. About who your great-grandfather played golf with. About which prep school you attended. About the invisible threads that connect old money to older money. And when someone like Angela shows up, someone who doesn't fit their narrow definition of belonging, well, the reaction is swift and brutal. Enter Victoria Bradford, draped in designer everything. Cartier watch catching the sunlight just so. She's the queen bee of this particular hive, and she's spotted an intruder. Her voice cuts through the afternoon air like a knife through butter. Sharp. Cold. Designed to wound. Remove this woman immediately. Just like that. No question. No conversation. Just a command delivered with the absolute certainty of someone who's never been told no in her entire life. Victoria's pointing at Angela like she's pointing at trash that needs removing. The audacity is breathtaking. But what Victoria doesn't realize, what none of them realize, is that she's just made the biggest mistake of her privileged life. Angela doesn't flinch. Doesn't argue. Just meets Victoria's glare with calm, steady eyes. Ma'am, I believe there's been a misunderstanding. Oh, the irony in that sentence. You have no idea. Victoria steps closer, her expensive perfume mixing with the scent of old money and older prejudices. Her voice drops to that special whisper rich people use when they're being especially cruel. The kind that's loud enough for everyone nearby to hear, but quiet enough to maintain plausible deniability. Listen carefully. This estate is worth $30 million. These guests represent the finest families in America. You do not belong here. There it is. That phrase. You do not belong here. For words that carry the weight of centuries of exclusion, discrimination, and casual cruelty. For words that people like Victoria have been using to keep people like Angela out of spaces they've decided belong only to them. But here's the thing about Angela Washington. She apologizes. Actually apologizes for the inconvenience. Can you imagine? Standing on your own property, being threatened with removal, and still maintaining perfect grace. That takes a special kind of strength. The kind that comes from knowing something the other person doesn't. Victoria's practically vibrating with self-righteous fury now. She snaps her fingers at security like she's summoning a waiter. Escort her out before she tries to steal something or embarrass herself further. And there it is again. The assumption. The prejudice. Not just that Angela doesn't belong, but that she's probably a thief too. Because in Victoria's world, people who don't look like her social circle are automatically suspicious, automatically lesser, automatically criminal. The security guards approach Angela reluctantly. You can see it in their body language. Something's off. They're not moving with the confidence of men removing a trespasser. They're moving like men who suspect they're about to make a terrible mistake. Ma'am, we need you to come with us. Angela rises gracefully. Of course. But she doesn't head toward the exit. Not yet. Instead, she does something that absolutely terrifies the staff. She walks deeper into the estate. Past the rose garden. Past the reflecting pool. Moving with the kind of familiarity that only comes from knowing a place intimately. And she's avoiding things. The loose flagstones that would trip someone unfamiliar with the grounds. The irrigation system that's about to activate. The shortcut past the carriage house that's not marked on any map. She moves through this $30 million property like she's done it 1,000 times before. Because she has. The catering manager spots her and freezes mid-sentence. His face goes absolutely white. He stammers something unintelligible and busies himself with champagne flutes, but his hands are shaking. Other staff members start noticing her too. Whispers spread through the service areas like wildfire. Servers point discreetly. The head groundskeeper actually removes his cap when she passes, then quickly looks away when Victoria's glare lands on him. Victoria's confusion is turning to anger. "Why is everyone acting so weird?" she mutters. "Oh, Victoria. They know something you don't. And watching you figure it out is going to be absolutely delicious." Angela pauses at the reflecting pool. Her fingers trace the edge of the fountain with obvious familiarity. There used to be a brass nameplate here. Washington Estate, 1952. Victoria had it removed 20 years ago, but the mounting holes are still visible if you know where to look. An elderly man in groundskeeper's clothes approaches hesitantly. His weathered face is a map of emotions. Joy, sorrow, guilt, hope. "Miss Angela? Is that really you?" Victoria whips around. "Miss Angela? Do you know this person, Thomas?" Thomas looks like he's watching a train wreck in slow motion. That is. Speak up. She used to visit here. A long time ago." Angela turns toward him with a smile that would melt ice. "Hello, Thomas. You're still taking care of the gardens beautifully." The old man's eyes fill with tears. "Miss, your father would be so proud. You look just like him." And there it is. The first crack in Victoria's perfect afternoon. But she's not ready to accept reality yet. Instead, she doubles down. Grabs Thomas's arm like he's property. "Get back to work now." More staff members are recognizing Angela. The head butler looks ready to pass out. Two housekeepers clutch each other's arms, whispering prayers. The knowledge is spreading through the estate like a virus. Everyone who's worked here for more than a few years knows exactly who Angela Washington is, and they know what her presence here means. Victoria is hosting a wedding on stolen property, and the rightful owner just walked through the front gate. Now, you might be wondering how something like this happens. How does someone live on property they don't own for 20 years? How do you steal an entire estate in broad daylight? Stay with me, because the answer is going to make your blood boil. Angela continues her quiet tour. She knows which floorboards creak in the East Wing, where the hidden safe sits behind the library portrait, which bedroom window offers the best view of sunrise over Long Island Sound. This isn't knowledge you get from Google Maps or property websites. This is the knowledge of someone who grew up here, who played in these gardens as a child, who learned family history in these halls. She pauses at the main house's rear entrance. The brass doorknob still bears her family's monogram, though someone tried to file it away. The letters are faint, but they're there. J.W. James Washington. Her grandfather. Thomas watches from across the courtyard, his face etched with guilt and sorrow. He's known for 20 years that this property rightfully belongs to the Washington family. He's watched the Bradfords live here, renovate here, host parties here. And he's kept quiet because what else could he do? He's just a groundskeeper. Who would listen to him? But now Miss Angela is back. And she's not the little girl he remembers. She's something else entirely. The storm is coming. And Angela Washington stands at its center. Victoria's had enough. Her heels click across the terrace like gunshots. This has gone far enough. Security, remove her from the property this instant. Two uniformed guards approach Angela reluctantly. "Ma'am, we need you to come with us." Of course. Angela rises from the garden bench with the grace of someone who knows she holds all the cards. But Victoria's not done performing. She raises her voice deliberately, making sure nearby wedding guests hear every word. "I will not have wedding crashers disrupting our family celebration." The absolute nerve of some people. Guests turn to stare. Their conversations halt mid-sentence. Victoria's playing to her audience now, and she's good at it. Decades of social maneuvering have taught her exactly how to shape a narrative. "Is that woman a problem?" asks one guest, adjusting her emerald necklace. Victoria seizes the opportunity like a shark smelling blood. "She wandered onto our property uninvited. Claims she belongs here." Her laugh is sharp enough to cut glass. As if we would associate with her type. Let that phrase sink in for a moment. Her type. Not even trying to hide the prejudice anymore. just laying it out there for everyone to see. The crowd takes Victoria's cue and runs with it. The whispers grow louder, more vicious, probably looking for handouts. These people have no respect for boundaries. Should have called the police immediately. Angela walks toward the exit, flanked by security, her spine straight, her dignity intact. But she's not just walking. She's observing, taking mental notes of who speaks, who stays silent, who looks away in shame. Her eyes sweep across the crowd like a camera recording everything. Victoria notices this careful observation, and it makes her nervous. What are you doing? Why are you staring at our guests? I'm simply appreciating the gathering. Angela's voice is smooth as silk. Appreciating. Victoria's face flushes red. You mean intimidating? Making our guests uncomfortable with your presence. The wedding photographer has been capturing everything. Every confrontation. Every cruel word. Every moment of this escalating disaster. Victoria spots him and snaps. Delete those photos. I won't have this embarrassment documented. Yes, ma'am. He scrolls through his camera, pretending to delete while actually preserving everything. Something tells him these images might matter later. His instincts are spot on. Angela reaches the estate's main entrance. Those massive iron gates with their elaborate scrollwork. Gates her great-grandfather commissioned in 1924. She runs her fingers across the metal, tracing the Washington family crest that someone tried to hide under a newer brass plate. The cover job was sloppy, done in haste. Probably around 20 years ago when the Bradfords decided to erase the Washington name from the property they were stealing. The security guard watching her notices the gesture. His face goes white. Ma'am, we should go. In a moment. Angela studies that brass nameplate, the one welded over her family's crest. Behind her, the wedding guests are congratulating themselves on removing the intruder. They actually applaud. Can you believe it? Applauding their own cruelty like it's some kind of victory for civilization. Victoria addresses the crowd like she's just won a battle. Ladies and gentlemen, please forgive the disruption. Some people simply don't understand their place in society. More applause. These people are actually proud of themselves. But Angela doesn't leave. Instead, she walks to her car parked across the street and opens the trunk. She retrieves a leather briefcase. The security guard takes a step backward. Ma'am, what's in the case? Angela's smile is small and mysterious. Documentation. Then she turns and walks back toward the gates with purposeful steps. The real confrontation is about to begin. Angela returns through the gates carrying her briefcase. Victoria's voice rises an octave. What now? Security, she's back. Ma'am, we escorted her out as requested. Then escort her out again. And this time make sure she stays gone. But Angela doesn't approach the main gathering. She walks calmly to an empty table at the reception's edge and sits down. Opens her briefcase. Begins reviewing documents like she's preparing for a business meeting. The absolute audacity. Victoria turns to her guests. She's actually trying to crash our wedding reception. The crowd's getting bolder now. More vicious. They smell blood in the water and they want more. Should we call the police? I'm considering it. This is harassment at this point. Angela spreads documents across the table with methodical precision. Her concentration is absolute. Professional. What is she reading? Someone asks. Looks like legal papers. Victoria's blood runs cold. Legal papers? What could she possibly? She stops herself. It's probably fake. Trying to intimidate us with props. A server approaches Angela's table hesitantly. She orders a glass of water, speaking quietly. Victoria intercepts immediately. Absolutely not. Do not serve this woman anything. But ma'am, she's sitting at a reception table. I don't care where she's sitting. She is not a guest. She is a trespasser. Victoria's voice carries across the lawn. Nobody serves her. Nobody speaks to her. Is that clear? The harassment campaign is coordinated now. Victoria's moving through the crowd, whispering instructions, pointing out Angela's location, ensuring everyone knows to avoid the problem. A group of young socialites approaches Angela's table, giggling. Excuse me, but this is a private event. Angela looks up from her papers. Yes, I understand. Then why are you still here? I will leave when appropriate. When appropriate? The leader laughs mockingly. Who do you think you are? Angela returns to her documents without answering. How rude. She thinks she's too good to talk to us. Their voices grow deliberately loud. Designed to humiliate. Probably here looking for rich men. Or planning to rob the gift table. But Angela's taking notes. Writing down names. Recording conversations. Her handwriting is precise. Methodical. She's documenting us, someone whispers urgently. The circle around her table tightens. Voices grow sharper. What are you writing about us? You can't record private conversations. This is harassment. Angela closes her notepad calmly. I'm simply documenting my observations. Documenting. Victoria pushes through the crowd. Are you threatening us? Not at all. Just maintaining records. Records of what exactly? Angela's smile is enigmatic. Behavior patterns. Social dynamics. Power structures. The crowd exchanges nervous glances. Something about her calm precision is unsettling them. This isn't how victims usually act. This is how lawyers act. How judges act. How people with real power act. Victoria's anger reaches a breaking point. You're trying to intimidate my guests with your amateur psychology nonsense. Well, it won't work. Of course not. That's not my intention. Then what is your intention? Angela stands gracefully, gathering her papers. To observe how people treat those they perceive as powerless. The word hangs in the air like a challenge. Powerless. Victoria laughs harshly. Honey, you have no idea what real power looks like. Don't I? That question. Those two words. They shift something in the atmosphere. Victoria feels the crowd's attention changing direction. She's losing control of the narrative. Security. Remove her now or I'm calling the police myself. Wait. A new voice cuts through the tension. A man approaches from the parking area, his wedding invitation visible in his breast pocket. He's built like a linebacker. Has that unmistakable cop bearing. His eyes lock on Angela and his face goes completely white. Jesus Christ, he breathes. Angela, what are you doing here? Victoria spins around. You know this woman? Detective Ray Coleman looks between Angela and the hostile crowd surrounding her. His police training reads the situation instantly. Yeah, I know her. The crowd leans forward eagerly. Finally, answers. Well, who is she? Ray's mouth opens, then closes. He looks at Angela, who gives the slightest shake of her head. Permission denied. She's someone you don't want to mess with. Someone I don't want to mess with? Victoria's laugh is shrill. Ray, darling, you're being dramatic. She's just some woman who wandered onto our property. But Ray Coleman stares at Angela with something approaching awe. And fear. And respect. It's a combination that makes no sense to the crowd. Unless Angela Washington is someone very different from what they've assumed. Ray removes his hat respectfully. Ma'am, I had no idea you'd be here today. Hello, Detective Coleman. Angela's voice carries quiet warmth. Congratulations on your promotion. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. The crowd notices his deference immediately. This is Ray Coleman. 6 feet of solid muscle. Decorated police detective. He doesn't defer to anyone. Ray, what's wrong with you? Victoria demands. Why are you acting so strange? Mrs. Bradford, perhaps we could discuss this privately. Discuss what? There's nothing to discuss. This woman is trespassing on our family property. Your property? Ray's eyebrows raise slightly. Of course it's our property. The Bradford family has lived here for 20 years. Ray looks at Angela again. Her expression remains perfectly neutral. Ray. Victoria snaps her fingers like summoning a dog. Stop staring at her and do your job. Arrest her for trespassing. I can't do that. What do you mean you can't? You're a police officer. Mrs. Bradford, trust me on this. You don't want me to arrest her. The crowd murmurs in confusion. Why won't he arrest her? Victoria's voice rises to near hysteria. Ray Coleman, I've known you since you were in diapers. Your mother and I went to school together. Now arrest this woman or I'm calling your supervisor. Ray's face hardens. Go ahead and call him. See what he says. What is that supposed to mean? It means some people are above your pay grade, Victoria. The insult hits like a physical blow. Victoria actually staggers backward. How dare you speak to me that way? How dare you speak to her that way? Ray nods toward Angela. One of the socialites steps forward boldly. Who is she? Some kind of criminal you've arrested before. Ray's laugh is bitter. Lady, you have no idea. Then tell us. Ray looks at Angela questioningly. She gives the slightest nod. Permission granted. She's someone with more authority than anyone at this wedding. Authority? Harrison scoffs. What kind of authority could she possibly have? The kind you don't question. Victoria's confusion turns to rage. Stop speaking in riddles. If she's so important, why is she crashing our wedding? Maybe she's not crashing it. Of course she's crashing it. We didn't invite her. Did you invite everyone who belongs here? The question silences the crowd. What does that mean? Angela checks her watch again. Detective Coleman, perhaps we should let them enjoy their celebration. Of course, ma'am. Whatever you think best. His continued deference is driving Victoria insane. Ray, what has gotten into you? Nothing. I just know who I'm dealing with. And who exactly are you dealing with? Ray looks around the circle of hostile faces. At the staff members watching nervously from the sidelines. At the mansion rising behind them like a monument to old money privilege. Someone who could change all your lives with a phone call. That's ridiculous. Is it? Ray's smile is grim. Mrs. Bradford, do you know who actually owns this property? Victoria's face goes white. What kind of question is that? A simple one. Who holds the deed to this estate? The Bradford family. Obviously. Obviously. Ray nods slowly. And you're sure about that? Of course I'm sure. It's our home. Angela closes her briefcase with a soft click. The sound seems louder than thunder in the sudden silence. Ray pulls out his phone. Mrs. Bradford, let me help clear this up. There's nothing to clear up. This is our property. Then you won't mind if I run a quick property search. Nassau County property records are public information. Victoria's eyes dart nervously. That's completely unnecessary. Just being thorough. Ray's fingers fly across the screen. Let's see. 47 Meadowbrook Lane, Southampton. The crowd presses closer, sensing drama. Here we go. Ray's face goes grim. Interesting. What's interesting? According to county records, this property was originally owned by James Washington, purchased in 1924. That's ancient history. Victoria waves dismissively. The Bradford family has owned this estate for decades. Actually, no. Ray continues scrolling. James Washington's estate was passed to his son, Robert Washington, in 1952. Then to Robert's daughter. He pauses dramatically. Angela Washington. The silence is deafening. That's impossible, someone sputters. Ray shakes his head. No sale recorded. The property transferred through inheritance to Miss Washington in 2003. Victoria's face drains of all color. There must be some mistake in the records. County records don't lie, ma'am. Ray's voice carries cop authority. But let's double check. He makes a phone call. Hey, Maria. Ray Coleman. Can you pull the complete file on 47 Meadowbrook Lane? Yeah, I'll hold. While they wait, Angela opens her briefcase again. She removes a manila folder thick with documents. What are those papers? Someone asks nervously. Property deeds. Tax records. Inheritance documentation. Angela's voice is library quiet. Would you like to see them? Victoria lunges forward. Don't show them anything. This is some kind of elaborate scam. Ray holds up his hand. Maria? Yeah, I'm here. Uh-huh. No sales recorded. Property taxes paid by. His eyes widen. Angela Washington Trust. For how long? 22 years. He hangs up slowly. Well, Victoria's voice cracks. Miss Washington has been paying property taxes on this estate since 2003. The crowd erupts in confused chatter. That's impossible. Victoria shrieks. We've been living here. We've been maintaining the property. Angela speaks for the first time, her voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. Without permission. Without what? You've been living on my property without permission for 20 years. Victoria's world tilts sideways. Your property? Your property. Angela removes documents from her folder, laying them out like evidence in a courtroom. Original deed signed by my grandfather in 1924. Inheritance papers from my father's estate. Current property tax records. Ray examines them professionally. These look legitimate. Official seals. Proper signatures. County stamps. They're forgeries. Victoria's voice rises to hysteria. Elaborate forgeries designed to steal our home. Ma'am. Ray's patience is wearing thin. Do you have any documentation proving your family owns this property? Victoria's mouth opens and closes. Of course we do. It's in the safe somewhere. Then perhaps you should retrieve it. Angela checks her watch again. Detective Coleman, don't you think the wedding guests deserve to know the truth about where they're celebrating? The crowd shifts uncomfortably. They came for champagne and celebration, not property disputes and legal drama. Victoria, just show them your deed, someone whispers urgently. End this nonsense. It's not nonsense. Victoria hisses back. This woman is trying to steal our home. Ray's phone buzzes with a text. He reads it, then looks at Angela with something approaching reverence. Ma'am, I just received additional information about you. With your permission, should I share it? Angela considers carefully. Not yet, detective. Let's stay focused on the property issue. Of course, ma'am. His continued deference is making people crazy. What information could possibly make a decorated cop treat someone like royalty? Someone steps forward aggressively. What additional information? Who is this woman? Someone with more authority than anyone here realizes, Ray repeats. Victoria sees her control slipping away like sand through fingers. Stop being cryptic. Either arrest her for trespassing or leave. I can't arrest someone on their own property. It's not her property. Victoria's scream echoes across the lawn. Angela retrieves another document. Property survey from 1924. Note the boundaries. The oak tree with carved initials marks the northeast corner. She points to the massive oak where she'd paused earlier. The reflecting pool was installed in 1952 to commemorate my grandfather's military service. The brass nameplate was removed approximately 20 years ago, but you can still see the mounting holes. Every detail checks out. The crowd follows her descriptions like a guided tour of their own ignorance. The carriage house foundation was poured by my great-grandfather in 1920. If you check the basement, you'll find his initials carved in the concrete. JW 1920. Victoria looks ready to be sick. You researched our property to make your story believable. I researched my property to reclaim what's mine. That word. Reclaim. It hits like a hammer blow. Thomas the groundskeeper approaches slowly, his cap in his weathered hands. Miss Angela, your father would be so proud of the woman you've become. Thomas, no. Victoria whirls around. Don't you dare speak to her. Mrs. Bradford, with respect, this young lady's family built this estate. Her grandfather hired my father in 1945. I've worked on these grounds for 40 years. The revelation stuns the crowd into silence. Her family owned this estate when mine was still in Ireland, Thomas continues quietly. The Washingtons were good people. Fair people. They treated us like family. Victoria's face contorts with rage. Thomas, you're fired. Pack your things and get off our property. Actually, Angela's voice cuts through the tension. Thomas works for me. He has for 20 years. I've been paying his salary through the estate management company. Another bombshell detonates. Raynaud's confirmation. Property taxes, groundskeeper salaries, maintenance costs. All paid by the Angela Washington Trust. This is insane. Victoria screams. We live here. This is our home. You've been my tenants, Angela says calmly. Without a lease. Without permission. Without paying rent. The implications wash over the crowd like a tidal wave. But Victoria Bradford isn't finished. Not by a long shot. And what happens next will determine whether justice or cruelty wins the day. Have you ever watched someone dig their own grave? Just keep talking. Keep making it worse. Completely oblivious to the disaster they're creating? Stay with me, because Victoria Bradford is about to give a masterclass in self-destruction. Victoria straightens her spine like a cobra preparing to strike. This is extortion. Her voice carries across the lawn with renewed authority. Years of commanding servants and intimidating staff flow back into her posture. Ladies and gentlemen, she addresses the crowd, we're witnessing a sophisticated con game. This woman has spent months, maybe years, researching our family to construct this elaborate fraud. One of her friends nods vigorously. Victoria's right. She probably found old property records and built her story around them. Another guest joins the counterattack. The timing is suspicious. Showing up at a wedding with fake documents, hoping to catch us off guard. Angela remains seated, observing the coordinated response like a scientist watching lab rats. Think about it logically, Victoria continues, warming to her theme. If she really owned this property, why wait until today? Why not contact us privately? Because she wanted maximum embarrassment, someone adds. Maximum leverage for her lawsuit. The crowd murmurs agreement. This narrative makes sense to them. False accusations against respectable families. Opportunists looking for settlements. They've heard these stories before. Victoria pulls out her phone with theatrical precision. I'm calling our family attorney, Richard Pelton of Pelton, Hayes and Associates. He'll expose this fraud in minutes. She dials, voice projecting for the audience. Richard? Victoria Bradford. We have a situation. Yes, at the wedding. Some woman claiming she owns our estate. Fake documents, the whole thing. Yes, please come immediately. She hangs up triumphantly. Our lawyer is on his way. He's handled property disputes for 30 years. He'll know forgeries when he sees them. Coleman shifts uncomfortably. Mrs. Bradford, maybe you should wait. Wait for what? To be swindled. Victoria's confidence soars. I understand she's fooled you with her act, but you're a police officer. Use your training. My training tells me. Your training should tell you to arrest someone attempting fraud. The crowd rallies behind Victoria's newfound strength. The familiar social order is reasserting itself. Rich people defending their property against outsiders. This is how their world is supposed to work. Look at her sitting there so calmly, someone points out. She planned this whole thing. Victoria seizes the momentum. Exactly. She researched our family, learned our wedding date, crafted fake documents, even bribed that old fool Thomas to support her story. Hey now, Thomas protests weakly. Shut up, Thomas. You're probably part of this scam. How much did she pay you? Angela speaks quietly. Mr. Thomas has been receiving his normal salary. Nothing more. Normal salary from who? Victoria's voice grows stronger with each word. You don't have any money to pay salaries. Look at her, everyone. Does she look like someone who owns a $30 million estate? Where's her jewelry? Her designer clothes? Her expensive car? The crowd examines Angela's modest navy dress with renewed suspicion. Exactly. Victoria's friend chimes in. Real wealth doesn't need to announce itself this desperately. Victoria approaches Angela's table like a predator. Where's your Rolls-Royce? Your servants? Your security detail? Where are the trappings of real wealth? Angela's silence feeds their confidence. I'll tell you where, Victoria continues. In her imagination. This is what delusion looks like, people. Mental illness combined with criminal intent. The attacks grow more personal, more vicious. We see this all the time, someone adds knowingly. People who can't accept their station in life, so they construct elaborate fantasies. She probably lives in a studio apartment and dreams about owning estates. The laughter is cruel now. Mocking. Victoria circles Angela like a shark. You know what this is really about? Jealousy. Pure, simple jealousy of people who've earned their success. Mrs. Bradford. Ray tries to intervene. You should really stop. Stop what? Defending our family's property? Our reputation? Our right to live without harassment. Victoria's voice reaches a crescendo. This woman has disrupted our daughter's wedding, traumatized our guests, and attempted to steal our home with forged documents. I want her arrested for fraud, trespassing, and harassment. The crowd applauds spontaneously. Richard Pelton will have her in jail by evening, Victoria declares. We'll sue for defamation, emotional distress, and attempted theft. When we're finished, she'll spend years in prison regretting this mistake. Angela checks her watch once more. What are you timing? Victoria demands. Your escape before the police arrive? Not at all. Victoria leans down, her face inches from Angela's. Her voice drops to a vicious whisper. Listen carefully, whoever you are. You picked the wrong family to mess with. We have connections you can't imagine. Lawyers who will destroy you. Judges who golf at our country club. I see. You see nothing. You're about to learn how real power works in this country. Victoria straightens triumphantly. Money talks, honey. And we have more of it than you'll see in 10 lifetimes. The crowd cheers Victoria's dominance. She's reclaimed control. Put the intruder in her place. Shown everyone how to handle these situations. But then Angela Washington does something unexpected. She smiles. Not a nervous smile. Not a defeated smile. A knowing smile. The smile of someone who's been waiting for exactly this moment. Actually, Mrs. Bradford, I think it's time you learned how real power works. She opens her briefcase and removes a single black folder. Ray Coleman sees the federal seal embossed on the cover and takes 3 steps backward. Jesus Christ, he whispers. Victoria, stop talking right now. But Victoria is drunk on her perceived victory. What now, Ray? Another fake document. Angela stands slowly, the black folder in her hands. And everything is about to change. Angela stares at that black folder for a long moment. The weight of 20 years presses down on her shoulders. She's back in 2004, answering her father's phone call. His voice broken. Confused. Baby girl, something's happened to the house. They say we don't own it anymore. They say there were debts, legal problems. I don't understand, Angela. My daddy built that house with his own hands. Victoria notices the hesitation and pounces. What's wrong? Having second thoughts about your little scam. The crowd grows bolder, sensing weakness. She's stalling, someone laughs. Probably trying to figure out how to escape. Look at her hands shaking. The guilt is eating her alive. Angela thinks about her father's funeral 3 years later. He died still believing he'd lost the family estate. Died thinking he'd somehow failed his ancestors. Failed his daughter. The shame of it had eaten him alive. Daddy never got to see his home again, she whispers. Victoria's smile turns savage. What was that? Feeling sorry for yourself. My father died thinking he'd lost everything. Good. Maybe this will teach you not to covet other people's property. The cruelty hits like a physical blow. Angela's composure cracks. Just for a moment, the pain shows through. Victoria sees those tears forming and moves in for the kill. Oh, now we get the sob story. Let me guess. Poor little girl whose daddy filled her head with fairy tales about owning mansions. The crowd laughs approvingly. Pathetic, someone sneers. Absolutely pathetic. Angela closes her eyes, fighting back 20 years of pain and rage. Fighting back the memory of her father's broken voice. Fighting back the injustice of it all. Victoria leans down again, her voice a vicious whisper. Your father was probably a drunk who gambled away whatever little money he had. Then he filled your head with lies about some imaginary inheritance. Stop. Angela's voice barely carries. Stop what? Telling the truth? Your whole family is probably a long line of losers and criminals. Angela remembers her grandfather's stories about building this estate, her great-grandfather's journey from Virginia. 4 generations of Washington family history rooted in this soil. All stolen. All denied. All mocked by these people who've lived on her land like parasites for 20 years. Victoria circles her again. You know what the saddest part is? You actually believed your own fantasy. You convinced yourself you deserved something you never earned. This has to be mental illness, someone adds. Normal people don't construct these elaborate delusions. The federal folder feels heavy in Angela's hands. With one phone call, she could destroy every person at this wedding. Fraud charges. Tax evasion. Conspiracy. She has the power to send Victoria to federal prison for decades. But her father's voice echoes in her memory. Baby girl, always remember, power without mercy isn't power at all. It's just revenge. Victoria mistakes Angela's silence for surrender. Finally accepting reality? Ready to admit this was all a pathetic lie. Angela opens her eyes. The tears are gone. Replaced by something much more dangerous. Judicial calm. Mrs. Bradford, you mentioned that money talks. Damn right it does. And that you have connections I can't imagine. More than you'll ever see. Angela stands slowly, the black folder held like a weapon. You mentioned judges who golf at your country club. Victoria's smile widens. The best money can buy. Interesting. Angela's voice carries a new tone that makes Ray Coleman step backward. Because I've been wondering about something. What's that, honey? Angela opens the federal folder, revealing the golden seal inside. I've been wondering what those judges would say if they knew you'd been committing federal fraud for 20 years. Victoria's smile falters. Federal fraud? What are you talking about? Angela's transformation is complete. The grieving daughter disappears. The federal judge emerges. I think it's time we discussed your real problems, Mrs. Bradford. The federal seal gleams in the afternoon sunlight. Ray Coleman recognizes it instantly. His police training processes the official designation embossed in gold. Oh my God. His voice carries across the suddenly quiet lawn. Ma'am, I had no idea you were on the bench. Victoria's confidence wavers. On the bench? What bench? Ray removes his hat again, this time with obvious reverence. Mrs. Bradford, you need to stop talking. Right now. Why should I stop talking? Because you're insulting a federal judge. The words hit like lightning striking the ground. Several guests gasp audibly. Someone's champagne glass slips from their fingers, shattering on the flagstones. Victoria stares at the folder in Angela's hands. That's impossible. Judge Angela Washington. United States District Court for the Eastern District of New York. Ray's voice carries cop authority. Appointed by the President. Confirmed by the Senate. The crowd backs away instinctively. Even wealthy socialites understand federal power when they see it. Victoria, we need to leave. Now. Her friend grabs her arm urgently. But Victoria can't process what she's hearing. Judge? She's a judge. Not just any judge, Ray continues grimly. Federal judges have lifetime appointments. They're essentially untouchable. Someone in the crowd looks ready to faint. We've been yelling at a federal judge? You've been yelling at someone who could send you to prison, Ray corrects. The photographer emerges from behind a hedge, camera in hand. I got everything on film. The whole confrontation. Victoria spins toward him. Delete those photos immediately. Actually, the photographer stammers, I think I should preserve them. For evidence. Thomas approaches Angela respectfully. Your Honor, your father would be so proud. He always said you'd be somebody important. Thank you, Thomas. Angela's voice carries judicial dignity now. You've taken excellent care of the property. More staff members emerge from the house. The head butler. 2 housekeepers. The catering manager. All approaching with obvious deference. Your Honor, the butler speaks carefully. We've always known this was your family's estate. We've been hoping you'd return. Victoria stares in horror as her own staff abandons her. You all knew? You've known this whole time. Ma'am, we tried to tell you, the catering manager explains, but you never listened. Ray checks his phone. Your Honor, I've just received word from my captain. If you need any assistance with this matter. Thank you, Detective. That may be necessary. The power dynamic has completely reversed. Victoria finds herself surrounded by people who now defer to Angela's authority. A well-dressed older man approaches from the parking area. Excuse me, I'm looking for Richard Pelton's client. Something about a property dispute. Victoria waves frantically. Richard. Over here. Thank God you're. The man stops dead when he sees Angela. His briefcase falls from his hand. Judge Washington. His voice cracks with terror. What are you doing here? Angela smiles coolly. Hello, Mr. Pelton. I believe you represent Mrs. Bradford. The lawyer looks between Victoria and Angela like a trapped animal. There seems to be some confusion. Indeed there is. 20 years worth of confusion. Victoria realizes her lawyer is terrified of her opponent. Richard, what's wrong with you? Pelton wipes sweat from his forehead. Victoria, we need to discuss this privately. Discuss what privately? Your legal situation, which just became very complicated. The wedding guests watch in fascination as Victoria's world crumbles around her. But Angela isn't finished revealing the full scope of her power. Not even close. Richard Pelton pulls Victoria aside desperately, his voice urgent. We need to leave. Immediately. Leave? Why would we leave our own property? Pelton's face goes ashen. Victoria, that woman isn't just any federal judge. She's Judge Angela Washington, Eastern District of New York. So what? So she handles major federal crimes. Organized crime. Public corruption. Financial fraud. His voice drops to a terrified whisper. She sentenced 3 congressmen to prison last year. Victoria's world tilts sideways. That can't be right. It gets worse. Pelton checks his phone frantically. According to her court records, she's presided over dozens of property fraud cases. Her conviction rate is 97%. The color drains from Victoria's face. Angela approaches slowly, her judicial presence now undeniable. Mr. Pelton, I believe your client has questions about property ownership. Your Honor, I'm sure this is all a misunderstanding. Is it? Angela opens her federal folder completely. Because I have extensive documentation of mail fraud, wire fraud, tax evasion, and conspiracy to commit theft of federal property. Pelton's briefcase trembles in his hands. Federal property? This estate includes wetlands protected under federal environmental law. Unauthorized occupation constitutes a federal crime. Victoria finally understands the scope of her disaster. Federal crime. 20 years of federal crime, Angela confirms. Her voice carries courtroom authority. With evidence of intent to defraud, systematic cover-up, and bribery of public officials. The wedding guests watch in horrified fascination as their host transforms into a federal criminal defendant. Your Honor, Pelton stammers, perhaps we could discuss a settlement? Settlement. Angela's laugh is ice-cold judicial steel. Mr. Pelton, your client just spent the last hour publicly humiliating me, threatening me, and attempting to have me arrested on my own property. Victoria grabs Pelton's arm. Do something. There's nothing I can do. She's a federal judge on her own property, which you've been illegally occupying. A commotion near the ceremony area draws everyone's attention. The groom approaches with his new bride, still in their wedding attire. What's all the shouting about? He asks his mother. Victoria points a shaking finger at Angela. That woman is trying to steal our home. The young man looks at Angela and freezes. His face goes white. Judge Washington. His voice barely whispers. Angela nods formally. Hello, Mr. Bradford. Congratulations on your marriage. The crowd senses another revelation building. Victoria stares between them. You know her too? The groom's hands shake visibly. Mom, we need to talk. Privately. Talk about what? 3 years ago, I appeared before Judge Washington's court. Victoria's knees buckle. What? Federal money laundering charges. I was facing 25 years in prison. The revelation detonates like a nuclear bomb. Judge Washington showed mercy, he continues, his voice cracking with emotion. She gave me community service instead of prison time. The irony is devastating. She saved my life, Mom. I would have spent my best years in federal prison if not for her compassion. Victoria stares at Angela in complete shock. You're the judge who? Who chose rehabilitation over punishment for your son, Angela confirms. Who believed he deserved a second chance. The young man turns to the assembled guests. Ladies and gentlemen, Judge Angela Washington is the reason I'm free to marry the woman I love today. Victoria has spent the afternoon attacking the woman who saved her son's future. The complete reversal of power is now absolute. Your Honor, he approaches with obvious reverence. I had no idea you would be here today. I should have invited you personally to thank you for everything. Angela's smile carries judicial mercy. Mr. Bradford, I came to observe how power treats the powerless. The lesson has been educational. And Victoria realizes she's been publicly humiliating a federal judge who literally holds her son's life and her own freedom in her hands. The young man steps toward the wedding microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, I need to make an important announcement. The crowd turns from the drama to listen, champagne glasses frozen halfway to lips. Victoria lunges forward. Michael, don't you dare. But her son has already made his decision. Judge Washington. He speaks into the microphone, his voice carrying across the entire estate. Would you please join me? Angela walks calmly to the small platform. Her federal authority is now unmistakable to everyone present. 3 years ago, Michael continues, I stood before this woman's bench facing federal money laundering charges that could have destroyed my life. Gasps ripple through the wedding guests. Some pull out phones to record. I was guilty. The evidence was overwhelming. I deserved prison. His voice cracks with emotion. Judge Washington could have sentenced me to 25 years. Instead, she saw something worth saving. Victoria tries to reach the microphone. Michael, stop this right now. She gave me community service, mandated financial counseling, required victim restitution. He looks directly at Angela. But most importantly, she gave me hope that people can change. The crowd listens in stunned silence. Your Honor, I spent 200 hours serving meals at homeless shelters because of your sentence. I learned what real poverty looks like, what real struggle means. His voice grows stronger. You didn't just save my future. You saved my soul. Angela nods graciously but says nothing. Michael turns to face the crowd. For the past hour, you've all watched my family treat Judge Washington with contempt, cruelty, and disrespect. Victoria's face burns with humiliation. Michael, please. You've watched us attack a federal judge on her own property, the property we've been illegally occupying for 20 years. The crowd shifts uncomfortably, realizing their own complicity. Judge Washington has the power to send our entire family to federal prison. Tax evasion, mail fraud, wire fraud, conspiracy. She could destroy us completely. Pelton whispers urgently to Victoria. We need to plea bargain immediately. Michael looks at Angela with obvious reverence. Your Honor, my family owes you everything. Our freedom, our future, our very lives. He turns back to the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, we are celebrating my wedding on property that rightfully belongs to the woman my mother just spent an hour trying to humiliate. The silence is absolute. Judge Washington, Michael's voice fills with emotion. I don't know why you're here today, but I'm grateful for the opportunity to publicly thank you. He removes the microphone from its stand and walks to Angela. Your Honor, would you like to address our guests? Angela takes the microphone with judicial calm. Mr. Bradford, thank you for your honesty. Her voice carries across the estate with quiet authority. Ladies and gentlemen, I came here today to reclaim my family's property. Victoria collapses into a chair. But watching your son speak with such courage and growth, I'm reminded why I chose mercy 3 years ago. Angela pauses, letting the words sink in. Justice isn't about punishment. It's about accountability, restitution, and change. She looks directly at Victoria. Mrs. Bradford, you've lived on my property for 20 years without permission. You've committed multiple federal crimes. You've stolen from my family's legacy. Victoria trembles visibly. However, Angela continues, your son's transformation gives me hope that people can learn from their mistakes. The crowd leans forward, sensing a decision coming. I am gifting this estate back to your family. Victoria's relief is palpable, until Angela continues. With conditions. Mrs. Bradford, you will publicly apologize to every staff member you threatened today. You will establish a fund for grounds maintenance that honors the Washington family legacy, and you will never again treat any person as beneath your consideration. Victoria nods frantically. Yes, Your Honor. Anything. Additionally, Thomas will receive formal recognition for his 40 years of faithful service. The Washington family crest will be restored to its rightful place, and this estate will host an annual scholarship fund for underprivileged students. The crowd watches Victoria's complete transformation from predator to penitent. Mr. Pelton, your client will voluntarily report the tax irregularities to federal authorities. Cooperation now may reduce consequences later. Pelton nods grimly. Understood, Your Honor. Angela surveys the assembled guests one final time. Ladies and gentlemen, remember this day. True authority doesn't demand respect through intimidation. It earns respect through service. She closes her briefcase with quiet dignity. Some people command a room without saying a word. Others scream and still command nothing. Angela Washington walks toward her car, leaving behind a wedding that will be remembered for all the wrong reasons and all the right lessons. The staff members line up as she passes, each one offering quiet thanks. Thomas has tears streaming down his weathered face. The housekeepers bow their heads respectfully. Even the photographer approaches. Your Honor, I'll make sure these photos tell the right story. Thank you. Ray Coleman walks her to the gate. Your Honor, that was justice. Justice and mercy, detective. We need both. Behind them, Victoria Bradford stands before her wedding guests, preparing to apologize to every person she's ever treated as less than human. It's going to be a long afternoon. Michael watches Angela leave, then turns to his mother. Mom, we have a lot to talk about. Victoria nods weakly. The woman who commanded this estate with cruelty for 20 years is finally learning what real power looks like. And that's the thing about true authority, isn't it? It doesn't announce itself with designer clothes and expensive watches. It doesn't need to shout or threaten or humiliate. It simply exists. Quietly. Powerfully. Mercifully. Angela Washington drove away that afternoon having reclaimed more than property. She reclaimed dignity. She reclaimed her father's memory. She reclaimed the truth. But she left something behind too. A lesson that every person at that wedding will carry for the rest of their lives. Power without character is just noise. Authority without compassion is just tyranny. And treating people with dignity costs nothing but means everything. So let me ask you something. When you have the power to destroy someone who's wronged you, what do? Do you use that power to crush them? To get revenge? To make them suffer the way they made you suffer? Or do you use it to teach? To transform? To show that mercy can be stronger than vengeance? Angela Washington chose mercy. Not weakness. Not surrender. But mercy with conditions. Justice tempered with grace. And that's why her story matters. Because we all face moments where we have power over someone else. Maybe not federal judge power, but power nonetheless. The power to forgive or condemn. To elevate or humiliate. To remember someone's humanity or reduce them to their worst moment. Victoria Bradford learned that lesson the hard way. In front of everyone who mattered to her. In the place she thought she owned but never really did. She learned that treating people with cruelty has consequences. That dignity isn't determined by wealth. That the person you're mocking might hold your entire future in their hands. Think about that the next time you're tempted to judge someone by their appearance. By their clothes. By their car. By whether they look like they belong somewhere. Because you never know who you're really talking to. That person in the modest dress? Could be a federal judge. That quiet worker you're dismissing? Could be the one person who knows the truth about your lies. That trespasser you're having removed? Could own the very ground you're standing on. Angela Washington taught an entire wedding full of people that lesson in one unforgettable afternoon. And she did it without raising her voice. Without losing her composure. Without becoming the monster they tried to paint her as. She did it with documentation. With truth. With 20 years of patience. And with the kind of grace that only comes from real strength. So here's my final question for you, and I really want you to think about this. Drop your answer in the comments because I'm genuinely curious. When you have real power, and I mean genuine authority over someone else's life, do you use it to elevate people or diminish them? Do you use it for revenge or for justice? Do you choose cruelty or compassion? Because that choice defines who you really are. Not your bank account. Not your connections. Not your property or your title or your designer clothes. Just that choice. In that moment. When you have the power to destroy someone and you decide what to do with it. Angela Washington chose to be better than the people who wronged her. And that's what made her powerful in ways Victoria Bradford will never understand. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe because we've got more stories about justice, redemption, and what happens when people underestimate the wrong person. Remember, true power doesn't announce itself. It just shows up, does what needs to be done, and changes everything without ever losing its humanity. Be like Angela Washington. Be powerful. Be just. Be merciful. And never, ever judge people by what you think you see. Thanks for listening to this journey with me. I'll see you in the next one.